hand option, which can be found under Reactions on a computer, or the More menu on a phone. The chair will call you in turn. Please use the lower hand option when you have completed your question or comment. Please mute your microphone until called upon to speak. Note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call. Tonight we will be hearing requests for deviation from the Nashua zoning code in the form of applications for special exceptions and/or variances. A special exception is a request that seeks permission to do something that the zoning ordinance permits only under special circumstances. To grant a special exception, 5 points of law are required to be met. These are outlined in the application and will be summarized in board motions. A variance is a request that seeks permission to do something that the ordinance does not permit. Variances also have 5 points of law to be met, different from those for special exceptions. Per the City of Nashua bylaws and State of New Hampshire revised statutes, a minimum of 3 or more affirmative votes are required to approve any application. In addition, this board will hear all scheduled cases if a quorum of 3 voting board members is present at this meeting. Any citizen has the right to contest the decision that this board makes. Should we render a decision that you believe is in error, you have the right to request a rehearing. A written rehearing request must be received by the City of Nashua Planning Department within 30 calendar days from the date of decision. Should this board not grant a rehearing request, you can file an appeal directly to the New Hampshire Superior Court. Please contact Mr. Falk of the Planning Department for more information. For this meeting, we have the following full board members in attendance. We have myself, Mary Ellen McKay, the chair. We have Mr. Steve Lionel, the vice chair. We have Mr. Jack Currier, who is on Zoom, and we have Mr. J.P. Boucher. None of our alternates are present this evening. In addition to the board members, we also have with us Mr. Carter Falk, our deputy planning manager, and Ms. Kate Poirier, our zoning coordinator. We will start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. For board members participating by Zoom, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you, which is required under the right to know law, and state your reason for not attending in person. Mr. Lionel.
Present.
Mr. Currier.
I'm present on Zoom. There is no one in the room with me, and I was exposed to COVID last week, so I am self-isolating at home.
Thank you. I hope you don't get it. Mr. Boucher.
Present.
And myself, Mary Ellen McKay. I am also here. And we have Mr. Carter Falk and Ms. Kate Poirier. Tonight we're going to deviate just a little bit from the agenda, and with the agreement of the board and our people who were ahead, we're going to call case number 4 first. And if I will read the case into the record. David William Hughes, owner, 58 Conant Road, Sheet C, Lot 226, requesting special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Number 3, to allow an accessory in-law dwelling unit in basement. This is in the R9 zone in Ward 9. Is there somebody here to present this application? If you would please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and you can either pull that mic down to you or take it right off that arm and hold it. But they need to hear you clearly. You can adjust it.
Okay. My name is David Hughes. Thank you. My name is David Hughes.
And your address, sir?
58 Conant Road, and I'm the homeowner.
Okay, you have the floor. You may state your case.
So I'm requesting a permit for an accessory dwelling unit in my basement. I've read through the criteria for the accessory dwelling unit. It's going to have 2 exits. There's one you can see on the screen there towards the front of the house. There's also a set of stairs. That door, that closed door right there on the screen, goes to a set of stairs that connect it to the upstairs of the house. And there's also a door that goes from the accessory dwelling unit out to the garage, and there's one door in the accessory dwelling unit that would go out the utility room, which also goes out to the garage. That's a view of the back of the house. That's the upstairs, which shows both the back door and the side door to the house. Does anyone have any questions?
If you are finished. Mr. Courier, I see your hand.
Yeah, just to clarify, when you were talking about the doors, hopefully you can hear me. Could you clarify that there's a door connecting on the inside of the proposed accessory dwelling unit to the balance of the house?
Yes, sir. That's the door that goes to the stairs. The stairs go up from the basement where the proposed ADU is, and that goes upstairs to the house. And I have some additional photos here also that show where those stairs come out inside.
And so just to clarify, there's not going to be another door placed on the front of the house?
Correct. Just the existing door.
And what's the space? I don't think there's any space being added to the house. You're just creating livable space in an unlivable basement at the moment. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. I got it. Thank you. I'm all set.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Courier. Does anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, is there somebody here who would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there somebody on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there somebody here who has any questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? Is there anyone on Zoom who has any questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. And you may sit or you can stand, it is but this is the time for the board to deliberate.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you. Mr. Boucher.
I think that the applicant has met all the criteria, has attested to the 9 conditions, and also we have a signed copy by the applicant in our package. To me, this is pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Pictures were great, were very explanatory to me, so I'm going to support the application.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lionel.
I also support the application. I agree with Mr. Boucher.
Mr. Courier.
Mr. Boucher's captured my thoughts. I'd also like to thank Mr. Falk and Fourier for having assigned special criteria as part of our application. It's nice to see it in there, otherwise we wonder if the applicant's aware of it, but it's great that it's in the package.
Thank you. I agree. And myself, Mary Ellen McKay, I'm also in support of the application for all the aforementioned reasons. Would somebody care to make a motion?
I'll do it.
Thank you, Mr. Lionel.
Okay. Make a motion on behalf of the owner, David William Hughes, address 58 Conan Road, Sheet C, Lot 226, requesting special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Number 3, to allow an accessory dwelling unit in the basement. This is in the R9 zone, Ward 9. The board find that this is listed in the table of uses. We have no evidence that it will create undue traffic congestion or unduly impair pedestrian safety. The board finds that it will not overload public water, drainage, or sewer or other municipal systems. We have testimony that special regulations are fulfilled, and the board believes that it will not impair integrity or be out of character with the neighborhood or be detrimental to the health, morals, or welfare of residents. Therefore, I make a motion to approve the special exception.
And thank you, Mr. Boucher, for your second. Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
Mr. Courier votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel, how do you vote?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
And myself, Mary Ellen McKay, I also vote in favor. That's 4 affirmative votes. Congratulations, you have gotten your special exception. As we stated at the beginning of the meeting, anyone has the right to challenge any decision made by this board, and they may appeal. They have up to 30 days with which to do so. Should you have any questions, need any information, please re-refer back to Mr. Carter Falk or Ms. Kate Poirier. Again, congratulations, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Now, we will go back to the agenda. Okay. Read the next case into the record. NPAC Corp., City of Nashua owner, master tenant, Tim Cummings, Economic Development Director, City of Nashua applicant, 201 Main Street and 78-84 West Pearl Street, sheet 81, Lot 3, requesting the following variances from Land Use Code Section 190-97. 1, to allow 6 wall-mounted electronic message center signs, 1 facing Main Street, 5 facing West Pearl Street, where they are not permitted in the D1 MU zone. 2, to allow symbols, graphics, and images for each EMC sign where 3 lines of text only are allowed. 3, to exceed 50% of the area of the sign to be the EMC portion. 100% proposed for all EMC signs. 4, from Land Use Code Section 190-108 D2 to exceed maximum wall sign height of 20 feet, 24.5 inches proposed for EMC sign facing Main Street. From Land Use Code Section 190-108 C6 to exceed maximum wall sign area, 100 square feet permitted, 112 square feet proposed on Main Street, and 6 from Land Use Code Section 190-108 E1 to exceed maximum number of wall signs per business, 3 permitted, a total of 7 wall signs proposed, 2 on Main Street, 5 on West Pearl Street. All requests for new Nashua Center for the Arts. This is in the D1 MU zone in Ward 4. Is there someone here to present this application? Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair. For the record, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development, and through you to the board this evening. I am actually going to just introduce you to the team that's with me here. This started out as a city-led initiative and designed under the auspices of the city of Nashua, but as you may or may not know, I know I've been before you previously to give a presentation on the structuring of the Performing Arts Center, but technically the real estate development and ownership is housed under NPAC Corp., and we have Rich Landon here with us. Thank you, Rich, for being here. And then the city acts as the master tenant and will be the eventual overseeing the eventual operations of the building when it's actually in use. And with that being said, we brought the lead architect with us this evening who can walk you through the various elements of the variance petition before you this evening, and that's Ned Collier. So Ned, thank you for being with us, and I'd like to hand it over to Ned this evening.
Thank you. If you could step forward and state his name and address for the record.
Thanks, Tim. Ned Collier, 51 Borough Street, Boston, Massachusetts.
Thank you. The floor, sir, is yours.
Thank you. So we put together a brief presentation to illustrate the location of the signage that you've just described. As I was preparing for this, I did want to share where we started, if we can get the image up on the screen. There we we go. Several years ago, when we were brought on board to design the now Nashua Center for the Arts, we were asked by the building committee to explore theater marquees with them and what might happen. If we go to the next slide, please. This is an excerpt from that early presentation. And you can see, theaters and their marquees vary widely, particularly older theaters. I think we're all familiar with the kind of exuberant illuminated marquees of early 20th century theaters. We, through the process, encourage the building committee to rely less on digital signage and lighting than on the architecture of the building. That's more common as a solution. It's a little bit more, dare I say, subdued than a large illuminated and visually active marquee, and they agreed. So that's the direction that we moved in. And the signage that we're presenting tonight is a much more sort of modest application of the marquee concept. We could go to the next, please. Just to give you an idea, this is a floor plan. Main Street is on the right, West Pearl Street to the top of the main theater space in the middle of the plan. The Main Street sign is noted on the bottom right corner. It's above the box office. But there's an internal and an external box office for the Center for the Arts. And that is externally building mounted. Then on West Pearl Street, what we're proposing are 5 poster signs that are actually inside the building behind the glass. There are 2 faces to those signs, one that faces the street and then a second screen that is internal and faces the West Pearl Street concourse. Next, please. So these are some of the renderings of the project, pointing out the location of the digital sign on Main Street. You can see it there just next to the Surf, which is above the box office. And then a little bit harder to see because they're not very big are the West Pearl Street portrait signs, and I can show these in more detail as we move forward. Next, please. This is a close-up of the entrance. Again, you can get a sense of the scale of the digital sign above the box office, and it was actually in these renderings a little bit larger than we're currently proposing. Next, please. And another view of it that's a little more direct. The actual sign, this is an excerpt from the final construction documents, is 6 feet 3 inches wide by 7 feet 9 inches tall. So fairly modest in scale and really intended principally to support the box office in terms of the content of the sign. Sorry, so that you can go on to the next one. That's okay. So just to give you an idea of what you're looking at, that's a building-mounted digital sign, larger in scale than we're talking about, as well as the construction documents. It's a series of LED modules that compose the sign. Next, please. And then on West Pearl Street, again, these are relatively small in scale. If you've been by the building, there's along the West Pearl Street facade of the building, what we refer to as a concourse or a sort of linear lobby. And if we go to the next, please. So this is an elevation of West Pearl Street and the 5 digital signs that are inside the glass are pointed out with the little green flags. Next, please. And this is the product itself. It's either ceiling or floor mounted. We're proposing ceiling mounted in this case. And what you're seeing in the middle is the exterior view of one of those, and then on the far right is the interior view of this kind of double-sided sign. You have any questions?
Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Courier, do you have any questions?
I've learned a lot, because what I've heard now was not in our package, but I guess I don't have any specific questions at this point. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Sorry, you can blame the architect for that. We always do our own presentation.
Well, I guess if that was it for your presentation, why the need for digital graphics? I guess a bit of brief history is, as you probably know, you're here for a variance because that's not permitted. And I guess in general, we get frequent applications for EMC signs with every applicant saying, you know, the graphics are needed, a life or death situation for business or not. And notwithstanding the wonderful presentation in our package, and I certainly fully agree with, you know, the vitality that can come downtown from a performing arts center, why the need for the graphics?
So it's largely to support the kind of changing nature of what's going on in the Performing Arts Center, but not unlike a traditional marquee, if somewhat modestly. Otherwise, it's sort of a static building, and presumably the operator, would resort to other means of displaying changing events. This is simply an easier way for them to do that.
Okay, I guess, all right, I'll hold with that, thank you.
Mr. Lionel?
Just to follow on to Mr. Courier's question, right? He's absolutely correct that we get frequent requests for graphics, and we generally turn them down. There's nothing that would prevent the content of the sign from changing. I think that usually we say no more than every 5 seconds or something like that. So one of the points of law that we are required to consider is whether this is in the spirit and intent of the ordinance. And the ordinance is very clear that EMCs are restricted to 3 lines of text. Now, if you go anywhere in the city, you will find many, many examples of EMCs where they have violated that. They didn't ask us for permission to do that, but they did it anyway. So I certainly sympathize that and understand that something like the Performing Arts Center would want a graphics on their EMC. And if it weren't for the ordinance being very clear that that's not allowed, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But the ordinance is very clear, and I would find it very hard to agree that that is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. So do you have any comment on that?
And I think it's mainly it's in the spirit of the kind of building that we're talking about, that the kind of signage or exuberant lighting and graphics are well within the kind of history of performing arts centers, and a kind of common feature of performing arts centers, so that they can sort of extend the artistic expression into the public domain. So I think and this is purely from my point of view, speaking as an architect, it's an extension of the function of the building, as opposed to a kind of commercial condition.
Well, that's well and good, but I also have to consider what the city ordinances say. Our position is to relax those ordinances from time to time, but we try to do it without breaking the ordinance and what we told applicants before. And please don't misunderstand me. I'm a supporter of the PAC, and I want it to succeed in all ways. But we tell people, if there's so much demand for graphics on an EMC, they should lobby the Board of Aldermen to change the ordinances for that, because we just constantly get requests for this. And so I'm very reluctant to support breaking that ordinance. So that's all I have to say.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development. Just one quick question. The ordinance that you're citing, is that citywide or is that specific to the downtown?
That's citywide.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have any questions, Mr. Boucher?
So again, just refresh me on, you had stated, what would be the alternative to this? I know you talked about the traditional marquees, but can you describe that a little bit more for us? What an alternative would be to the EMC sign over the box office?
And this is pure speculation on my part because I haven't spoken with the
Sure, I
operator.
understand. What would
I would go with changing banners and things like that. You know, something that allows them to say, you know, what's currently playing, what's coming.
Now, again, just speculating, because I know that you haven't presented anything. Knowing this building, would that be something that would be, would, for lack of a better statement, take up more square footage than what you're actually proposing for the sign over the box office? Or is it like the same type size, or are we talking something more because of what you have to achieve?
Anything goes. I mean, for me, thinking off the top of my head,
Right.
I would eye the balcony rail as a kind of great place for you know, a banner kind of display,
Right,
which is almost the full length of the building.
right, okay. Thank you.
Question I have is, why so many?
On West Pearl Street,
On West, yeah, you're asking for a large amount of signage.
well, so the one on Main Street is a kind of singular. You could consider the two as separate from one another. The Main Street is the larger of them. It's external and it's directly associated with the box office. One of the things that we were anxious to achieve with West Pearl Street was to really activate that length of the street so that anyone walking up and down West Pearl would be able to kind of engage externally in what's going on in the Performing Arts Center. The wall that's behind the glass, for example, is designed for art displays, and the poster cases, which are, you know, in lieu of the traditional fixed poster case, are intended to kind of run the whole length of the building facade. It doesn't have to be that many. You know, I think we could go to two and have one near Main Street and one near the alley on West Pearl Street. But it was more about that whole kind of experience of walking along the side of the building on West Pearl.
Thank you for that. Also, are these signs going to be extremely bright? Are they going to be flashing? Or are there going to be things that are rolling by? Will that cause a conflict for a vehicle looking at, because it's right on the corner and there's streetlights
Mhm.
on all the corners?
Mhm.
Will that be an inhibitor for the operator of the vehicle? I mean, could that shine in their eyes? I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm asking a question to get an answer because I
Right.
don't know.
Again, I'm not a sort of traffic professional. They are down the facade. You know, they're not near the corner and behind the glass, I think you have to be sort of looking straight at them to really get that experience. That said, we have no control over the digital content and what the operator would choose to do in terms of, would they sequence images along, like an artist installation, where the 5 screens would be used in concert with one another? Would they use them individually? That's really, that's always sort of the big question with digital content. But I don't see it as having any kind of hazard, traffic hazard.
I just wanted to make sure that obviously it would be a distraction. I just want to know how much of one. And now you're saying that content could be different on all of them, so, okay, that just adds to the confusion, as it were.
Can I help at all?
Maybe you did already say less signage would be okay instead of the vast amount you have, which limits that adverse reaction. But it's a little perplexing to think that somebody may be playing different things on different signs all at the same time. I would hope for more symmetry, but that's just
Yeah, that's sort of out of, I personally would love to see them treated more as an art installation than an advertisement, but that's really up to the operator.
I concur. Mr. Boucher.
Just another question on the signage over the box office. The content on that would be specific to anything specific? Would that be, is it advertising what's coming, or is that again something that is envisioning changing constantly, or is that more of a static type of thing?
That's really up to the operator.
Okay.
We located it there thinking it would relate to what's playing and what's upcoming, but we can't control the digital content.
I would have a question for the operator, if it's a city, just to kind of try to understand a little bit more what the goal is, after we're done.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I absolutely agree. Mr. Courier, after hearing all the questions and responses, did you have any more questions?
Yeah, just on those proposed Pearl Street signs that we saw in the presentation tonight, realizing they're in the window, I guess I was thinking they were like window signs, but they kind of look like they're bolted to the floor. Kind of reminds me of what I see like when I'm in an airport, because I'm back in airports now, like at each gate seems to have like a TV screen mounted that has lots of information. And it almost looks like those signs are kind of like mounted TV screens against the window, projecting on both sides, in and out. Is that what I'm seeing on that presentation?
That's a pretty accurate description. In our case, they're hung from the ceiling, but they are basically TV screens, double-sided, one facing in, one facing out, and they're a foot behind the glass or so inside.
Okay. I mean, I didn't know that those were like available as signs. I guess I'm pleasantly surprised that every pizza shop and bar in town hasn't had one mounted recently, kind of charging away, but I'm glad that doesn't happen. But anyway, no, I just thank you for clarifying that. I guess it's how technology moves ahead. So, yeah, I'm all set with that question. Thank you.
Thank you.
All set?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are you all set? Did you want to ask Mr. Cummings?
Yes. Yeah.
Mr. Cummings, would you mind coming up so that Mr. Boucher could ask you a question?
So
Sure.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around the Main Street sign over the box office. And I'm just trying to get a better picture of what you envision is going to be what would be there? And is that something that would be displaying something the same for a while until something happened at the center and then it changes? I'm just trying to
That's
get an
right.
idea of what you envision as the operator
Yeah.
that you would be displaying, and what is kind of that operation of that?
Sure. So for the record, the city's not going to be the direct operator. It's actually a third-party, Spectacle Management, Spectacle Live, is going to be the actual operator of the facility. What they have expressed to us is the desire to be able, like mentioned, use technology to their advantage to be able to, tell people what is currently happening in the building, and then also what is upcoming, for future events or shows. It is more often not the thought process to be static and not changing, as often as maybe you might be thinking in your mind. But it is the idea of, for an efficiency standpoint and convenience standpoint, easier to use that technology than opposed to, the, banner type solution. While I'm up here, if I may, and technically for the record, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development, I should have led with that, I apologize. The West Pearl Street signage is supposed to be pedestrian in scale. And the thought process behind that is the experience you get if you can remember back to going to a movie theater and just seeing those movie posters showing the various things that are coming attractions, coming soon type of imagery. That was the thought process behind the West Pearl Street, and it's not necessarily, the thought process to be advertisement or to be actually, a bigger scale for vehicular attention. It's actually more for the pedestrian experience as you're walking down the sidewalk. Anyway, I wanted to add those comments. Thank you.
Mr. Cummings, having said that, are they stationary?
Yes,
They're not something, posters were just stationary, it was just a picture.
correct.
And these signs are just a picture that will change when the venue, the attraction changes, when whoever's gonna perform changes? Is that how it goes?
So I don't want to bind myself or tie myself to that answer, but that was the thought process behind it. I know there's that idea of that's how they were going to be used. Are they going to change? I think that they would. I don't think they're going to be changing as often as maybe you're thinking in the back of your mind. But the thought process behind it was to be that type of movie poster. So you have the experience as you're walking down the street, you can see it. But as Ned mentioned, could it be used for some sort of art, and have that type of, functionality? Yes, to use the technology to your advantage.
I have one more question.
Certainly.
Just another clarification on the sign over the box office. Mainly static. I know it's clear to me now that you're not the operator, but again, there's no idea at this point that you would be expecting to see any type of video playing on that screen over the box office, right? That's not the purpose of that? Or again, you just don't have control over that?
I don't have control over that. I don't want to speak to that, but that is not the intention, to have a video displaying, but more like an advertisement of the differing shows either happening at the venue or what could be coming up. The other thing that hasn't come up yet that I want to be fully transparent on and make sure that there's an awareness of, the idea is not to actually sell it either as like a billboard for commercial use, but if there's a business sponsoring a production, similar to like Bach in Boston, Bach presents XYZ, that could happen with that visual display board that I want everyone to be aware of. I'm not suggesting that Tully may do that, but you could see that Tully presents a Christmas Carol or whatever it could be. That could be, and I think that would be expected on the Main Street frontage. So just so everyone is aware of that. And again, not obligating Tully, but that would be great if they would do that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So-
You're all set. Mr. Carrier, you're all set?
Yes, I'm all set.
Mr. Lionel?
Yes, I'm all set.
Okay, is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to speak with any questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? I see none. And seeing none and hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Courier.
Me first.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
I'm excited, and I've been excited to see this project coming along, for years. And probably the lead cheerleader for all these years is Tim Cummings. And I can't thank him enough, and I'm hoping that in the end, this finished building and performing arts center does just what the consultants think it could do that was presented in our package. But I feel like I'm curmudgeon courier here with the EMC. While I believe that there's an intent on behalf of Tim and Mr. Collier that the graphics will be throttled and it'll all be in character of the neighborhood. And while I like the idea of activating West Pearl Street, wouldn't it be great to just kind of lighten up that street, so to speak, business-wise and pedestrian-wise? I'm struggling with what I see kind of the no-holds-barred of an EMC, that an owner or the third person there who we haven't heard from tonight is really going to be in control of. I mean, God forbid, suppose revenues aren't good or things aren't going well with the Performing Arts Center. I mean, it could be full gas graphics and kind of Radio City Music Hall. And I'm not sure, and to me, that's fair game with the request tonight. So I'm struggling with that, and I'm, hoping that other opinions can turn me around on that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lionel.
Okay, well, again, I am a supporter of the Performing Arts Center. I've donated to it, and I would like to see it succeed, but I'm more than struggling. I can't find support for these requests, especially in light of our history of how we deal with EMCs. My recommendation would be that Mr. Cummings speak to the Board of Aldermen and try to get them to alter the EMC ordinances to reflect at least some, a relaxation for graphics and all of that. For the sign over the box office, I mean, the city allows 3 lines of text, and a traditional theater marquee is fixed text, those letters on an illuminated background. We're all familiar with that. As far as the West Pearl Street sign, illuminated posters would work perhaps in the future if the ordinances permit. Then some sort of EMC would be reasonable to replace it. But I can't support these requests at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher.
West Pearl Street side, I'll just start with that. I actually support that issue there. I think this is a little different, even though it's intended for the street. I think that the clarification on its pedestrian facing type of a sign, not for vehicular traffic, so you got that. It's mounted on the inside, showing both ways. I think that to me I think is a good use of the signage. Now, we can always discuss the number of signs and all that, but as it stands, I don't really have a really huge issue with that. No different than if there were televisions sitting, if it was a TV sales place like the old days, right? All the TVs are going, right? I think this is, definitely technology's come a long way, and I think, again, the size of those signs and being a one-way street and all that, I don't really think that it would take away from anything, and I don't think it's a safety issue. And again, I think that, in my opinion, we all have our opinions about this, but I think that if there was specific controls in place, again, to me, it's just like putting up a banner sign or putting up, a sign, it's fixed. It's just they're using technology to be able to change it. As far as the sign over the box office, my position is if I knew specifically what was going to happen with that sign, I'd probably support that. Again, the same reasoning behind the fact that changeable. If somebody's putting up a sign and just change it with another face, I don't expect anybody to remember, but I've had these same kind of comments in previous cases that we've had with people who have come in front of us for signage. The only thing, again, I'm struggling just a little bit with is the control part of it, but on the other side of it too, to sit here and put stipulations on which we can do, but again, does it cover it forever or not? And that's kind of my struggle with that one. I would honestly rather, not that I would rather see it, I think it's a good use of signage compared to, and not saying that anything would be approved, but having something that would have to be in bigger scale on the front of that building that's changing, like the old movie theaters and that type of stuff, right? I think that, to me, fits that building as opposed to something bigger that has to be, in a position where it can be seen a little bit better. So, but right now, I would support the West Hollis Street, West Pearl, I'm sorry, West Pearl signage. And I would need more clarification from the operator as to what the plan was so that I could make a better decision on if I would support that, and whether or not it would be something that we could support and have maybe some specific stipulations in there. That's what my thoughts are right now.
Thank you. I think I run all over the place with this one. On the front facing the facade that people would see, I understand the logic behind large lettering. I almost wish it was almost stationary, raised, and in a bright brass, something that would stand out. That seems to be okay. Something changing and moving when we don't know what it's going to be because nobody can give us that information is a little scary. It's trying to make a determination and a decision based on an unknown and not having all of the facts at hand. And what if the economy got really bad or the PAC wasn't doing so well and they started selling advertising? What would that look like? We don't know. Pearl Street, if it was, I don't know if they need as many as they have. I mean, it's a stationary, you walk by, do I need 5 or can I still see the same thing with 2 or 3? That doesn't seem to be as much of an issue for me as that big sign that over that box office that we really don't know what it's gonna be. I almost wish that, we could say, would you mind tabling this so we could get more information? But I don't know. Okay, so.
May I, Madam Chair?
I do have-
So-
We're, all right.
Yeah, we're in session. We have to vote whether or not we hear somebody, right?
We are going to have to vote. We are going to have to vote and do this. We do have to come to resolution. However, we could,
Well, Mr. Cummings wants to speak, but in order for him to do so, we need to have a vote to allow.
Exactly.
Because we are now in.
we are in the public meeting part.
Yes.
And so the chair has the option to go ahead and ask, and the chair is going to go ahead and ask, so that we could hear what you have to say. I'm going to ask the board if it's the will of the board to go ahead and listen, come out of our public meeting, go back into the public hearing so that we can hear what Mr. Cummings has to say.
So you're making a motion?
Yes, I'm making a motion to come out of the public meeting and go back into the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
In favor?
Thank you. Mr. Lionel, how do you vote?
In favor?
Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
And myself, Mary Ellen McKay, I also vote in favor. Therefore, Mr. Cummings, would you state your name?
Yes, for the record, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development. Thank you for indulging me. I was going to just suggest that this is not time sensitive, that you could continue this to your next meeting if you wish. In the meantime, I can go back and speak to the operator, get some clarification, find out what their intentions are. I don't want to misrepresent anything now, but I think that additional information may behoove all of us and hopefully give some level of confidence.
Based on that, and I agree, I concur. And going to put us back into the public meeting now that we've heard you. And Mr. Carter, Falk, do you have?
If the board is considering a table, we should table it to a date certain.
Okay,
We'll probably have to talk to Mr. Cummings and see if 2 weeks is not enough time, or if they want to go to the first meeting in November. 2 weeks is fine. So the next meeting is October 25th.
okay, fine. So then, if, I'm going to make that motion to table to our next meeting, which is October 25th. And Mr. Boucher, are you asking a question or are you seconding?
Seconding.
Thank you very much. Mr. Courier, how do you vote on the tabling motion?
Vote in favor of the table, motion to table?
Thank you. Mr. Lionel, how do you vote on the tabling motion?
Vote in favor of tabling?
Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
And myself, Mary Ellen McKay, I also vote in favor of tabling this to a date certain, October 25th, 2022.
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
who seconded the motion?
Mr. Boucher,
Got it, thanks.
you're welcome. Thank you, and we will welcome your presence again in 2 weeks.
Well, we get to see him again right now.
Well, we do, but this is a whole different,
Yeah.
scenario. Okay. City of Nashua, owner, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development, City of Nashua applicant, 44 Broad Street, sheet 71, lot 2, requesting use variance from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, 116, to allow for construction of a new building for retail use, approved by ZBA 101320, about to expire, requesting 2-year extension. This is in the GI-HB zone in Ward 4. Is there someone here to present this case? Well, welcome, Mr. Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to the committee. My name is Tim Cummings. I'm the Director of Economic Development. What's before you is 44 Broad Street, which is a remnant parcel that came about through the construction of the Broad Street Parkway. And we are looking to dispose of this land. We've been trying to do this for quite a few years now. With the COVID pandemic, things got a little waylaid. In addition to that, I should say that we've had 2 real strong, viable uses potentially going under PNS, but for various reasons, it did not work out. All those were retail uses. Highest and best use for this area would be a limited retail type of use. And that is why we are asking for this continuation of the variance to be able to achieve the highest dollar value possible for the land. In the previous presentations, there had been no strong opposition to this, and it seemed to make a lot of sense. So I'm asking for you to continue this again. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of the applicant? Mr. Courier, do you have any questions? Okay, I see Mr. Boucher, Mr. Lionel.
No
You have a
questions.
question?
I do.
State your question.
So I remember this from before, and this, I see here that there was a request in 2017 to permit this. Do I have that right? And then it was extended in 2020?
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay. I sort of understand. I'm just puzzled that it's taken so long to find somebody to buy this piece of land. You talk about maximum dollar value for the city. Is the city possibly willing to take a little less for it and to encourage somebody to take it off their hands? Maybe that's an unfair question. But it's been, what, 5 years now? And you can't find anybody to take it?
No, it's been potentially sold twice with, potential PNSs and it going under agreement, but for various reasons, the parties didn't actually follow through.
Okay.
That's the real estate game. That's what happens. Any other questions for Mr. Cummings? Seeing none,
Thank you.
is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Lionel.
I'll support the extension. I don't really have a good reason not to. I'm just wondering how much longer this is going to go on, but sure, give it another 2 years.
Mr. Boucher.
I support the application.
Mr. Courier.
I support the application.
I too support the application. Okay. Would somebody care to thank you, Mr. Boucher?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the use variance for the City of Nashua. Owner, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development, City of Nashua. Applicant, 44 Broad Street. Sheet 71, Lot 2, requesting use variance from Land Use Code, Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Number 116, to allow for construction of a new building for retail use. This was approved by the ZBA on 10/13/2020, about to expire, requesting a 2-year extension. It's in the GI-HB zone, Ward 4. We find that the variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of property, given the special conditions of property and the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. We find that it is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. We find it will not adversely affect property values of surrounding parcels. We find it's not contrary to public interest, and we find that substantial justice would be served. So again, I make a motion to approve use variance.
Thank you, and I'm going to second that. Okay. Mr. Lionel, how do you vote?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
Mr. Courier votes in favor.
And Mary Ellen McKay, I also vote in favor. Congratulations, your variance has been granted with any variance, any decision by the board. Anyone can appeal our decision. They have up to 30 days with which to do so. Should you have any questions, comments, concerns, please refer back to either Mr. Carter Falk or Ms. Kate Poirier. Thank you very much for your application. And congratulations. You have your extension. Are we all good still? Case number 3, we did number 4. John S. and Melissa A. Odom, owners, John Odom applicant, 18 Norwich Road, Sheet B, Lot 1246, requesting the following variances from Land Use Code Section 190-31 to encroach 16 feet into the 20-foot required front yard setback on 10B Road, and 2, to encroach 4 feet into the 6-foot required side yard. Both request to construct a 10 by 12 shed. This is in the R9 zone in Ward 9. Is somebody here to present this application? Please step up to the mic, adjust to your comfort level, and then please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Hello, I am John Odom with 18 Norwich Road in Nashua, New Hampshire, and I am the property owner.
You just want to explain to us what you would like to do.
So I am looking to put a shed into my backyard for storage of patio furniture, lawn tools. I abut 2 roads, so I'm a corner lot, so I have essentially a front lot access along Norwich Road and along 10B. The back right portion of my yard is currently occupied by a pool that we got as part of COVID and keeping the kids occupied. So that corner is kind of spoken for. And I do want to keep the shed in the backyard. It will be behind, my fence is fully back, my backyard is fully fenced in. And so the shed will be behind a fence. So it will not interfere with anybody walking along 10B. There are no power lines overhead. They're on the opposite side of 10B. The fire hydrants down on the corner of Norwich and 10B. So there's no public utilities or public access that's really being affected by where I want to locate this. It's just if I were to come in the 20 feet off of the property line, off the easement, it's where I have a couple of old growth oak trees. So I'd have to take 2 large trees out, and it also happens to be on a hill. So this is kind of like the one level spot in the backyard. So it's kind of one of those things I want to tuck it in between the tree and the fence. Otherwise, I don't have a really good spot to put the shed. And you can kind of see that on the diagram. And I did bring pictures if you all would like to see that, but between the house and the back fence, it's fairly narrow, occupied by a patio. There's trees along the fence between me and my neighbor. And after that, I'm just kind of out of backyard.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Odom? Mr. Ryan? Seeing no questions,
Thank you.
I will ask if there's anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this application. Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there someone here who would like to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to the application? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Boucher.
I'm going to support the application. The applicant did state, obviously, what I saw was, again, large trees, topography issues there, and, short of putting the shed in front of the house, up against the front of the house, there isn't really much area left. Again, two streets that he butts, so he has 2 frontages. But again, where the shed's going to be located, definitely not an issue. It's not like he's trying to locate it in front of his yard, so there's no issue with any sight distance looking or, any safety issues. So I'm going to support the application.
Thank you very much. Mr. Courier.
I just wanted to add on to what Mr. Boucher said about the topography and the existing fence. When I first saw this application, I thought, wow, it's a big ask on the Tenby Road side, but then I realize, kind of walk by this property all the time, the fence has been existing there for years. I'm not really sure you're gonna know the shed is in behind the fence if it goes in as proposed, because really with that fence that's been there for years, it's really like a private backyard. And therefore, I don't feel the shed's gonna be like sticking out on 10B Drive as it would be if there wasn't a fence there. So I just wanted to throw that out also, that would, again, with the topography, I concur that there's no other spot to put it, and it's a reasonable use in this neighborhood, although not normally close to the street, but in this specific lot, I think it's warranted.
Thank you. Mr. Lionel?
I also support the application for the reasons my colleagues have stated.
I too support the application. As I listened when he spoke of the trees and the slope, I immediately thought, as Mr. Boucher stated, the topography was a huge issue. So, is there someone who would like to make, thank you, Mr. Lionel.
I'd like to make a motion on behalf of John and Melissa Odom, 18 Norwich Road, Sheet B, Lot 1246. The applicant is John Odom, requesting the following variances from Land Use Code Section 190-31. First, to encroach 16 feet into the 20-foot required front yard setback on 10B Road, and two, to encroach 4 feet into the 6-foot required side yard setback. Both request to construct a 10-foot by 12-foot shed. This is in the R9 zone, Ward 9. The board finds that the variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property. Given the special conditions of the property, we were told about the topography and large trees that would prevent the shed from being placed elsewhere on the property. And the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. The board believes this is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. We believe that it will not adversely affect the property values of surrounding parcels, that it is not contrary to public interest, and the board finds that substantial justice will be served. So I make a motion to approve this variance.
And thank you, Mr. Boucher, for your second. Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
Mr. Courier votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel, how do you vote?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
And myself, Mary Ellen McKay, I also vote in favor. That's a unanimous decision. Mr. Odom, congratulations. Your variance has been granted. And anyone has the opportunity within 30 days to appeal any decision made by this board. If you have any questions, please refer back to Mr. Carter Falk or Ms. Kate Fourier. Other than that, congratulations. Thank you for your presentation tonight. Thank you. Okay. We have already heard case 4. AJJ and Allison R. Singh, owners, 11 Meredith Drive, Sheet E, Lot 373, requesting special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Number 3, to allow an accessory in-law dwelling unit by constructing an attached 25 by 30 two-story addition with garage on first floor and accessory dwelling unit on second story. This is in the R9 zone in Ward 1. Is there someone here to present this application? If you would please approach the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Allison Singh. Sorry.
I'm Ajay Singh.
And this is Jason. We live at 11 Meredith Drive in Nashua. Basically, we are requesting to have a two-car garage built. Our home does not have a garage, so we'd like a two-car garage built attached to the home. And on top of the garage, we would like to have an in-law apartment. The in-law apartment would consist of a living room, kitchen, one bedroom, and one bathroom, and that would be 750 square feet, which I believe is what we're allowed to have. That's it.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Courier, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Does anyone here have any questions? Seeing none? Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here who would like to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? Seeing none,
Madam Chair,
whoops,
can we get the affirmation that they are going to,
did we not
Agree
have
to
that in the
this.
It's
packet?
included in the packet,
is it, yeah,
yes. They signed it.
Yes,
Right.
it is here.
I was just looking for a verbal, that's all.
Well,
That's good, we got
no,
it.
it's
We have
fine.
it, we have it.
It's absolutely fine, you're, ahead of the game here.
And then there's also,
The accessory dwelling unit.
yeah, and there's also communication in support.
Yeah. There was, where it is, thank you. To the board, this notice to acknowledge receipt of the board's certified mailing notice of the October 11th, 2022 meeting on the meeting's agenda for consideration of a special exception for a proposed at 11 Meredith Drive, Nashua. As the abutters at 13 Meredith Drive, I, Edward J. Kelleher, and my wife, France C. Kelleher, wish to go on record as having no objection to the proposal. Thank you, E. Kelleher. Just needed for the record to make sure we got that read in, that was in support of what you want to do. Okay, there were no objections on Zoom, so I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Courier.
Well, I'll start off by saying this is a crystal clear application. I appreciate the detail that's provided, the engineering drawings that tells you exactly what's there, and it meets all the criteria, and the special exception criteria, as we talked about, was signed and in the application, and thus I had absolutely no questions. I think it meets all the criteria, and I'm in support.
Thank you. Mr. Lionel.
I agree with Mr. Courier. Everything is very clear, and I support the application.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher.
I also support the application with the extremely complete package that we got in the technical drawings.
Thank you. I too support the application, the completeness of it, and back in the beginning when an ADU first came into being as part of our statutes, it was families of children with disabilities who brought it forward. To see it full circle it's nice. Okay, would someone like to make, thank you, Mr. Boucher.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special exception for AJ and Allison R. Singh, owners of 11 Meredith Drive, Sheet E, Lot 373, requesting a special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Number 3, to allow an accessory in-law dwelling unit by constructing an attached 25 by 30-foot two-story addition with garage on the first floor and accessory dwelling unit on the second floor. It's in the R9 zone, Ward 1. We find that it is listed in Table of Uses. We find it will not create undue traffic congestion or unduly impair pedestrian safety. We find it will not overload public water drainage or sewer or other municipal systems. We find that the accessory dwelling unit special regulations have been fulfilled. We find it will not impair the integrity or be out of character with the neighborhood or be detrimental to the health, morals, or welfare of the residents. So with that, I make a motion to approve the special exception.
Second.
And thank you, Mr. Lionel, for your second. Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
Mr. Courier votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel, how do you vote?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
And myself, Mary Ellen McKay, I also vote in favor. Congratulations, your request has been granted unanimously. Anyone can challenge any decision and appeal what we determine here. They have 30 days with which to do so. Should you have any questions, comments, concerns, please re-refer back to either Mr. Carter Falk or Ms. Kay Poirier. Other than that, congratulations and good luck. Thank you so much. Thank you. Moving forward. Okay. Rosario Pilar Guerrero, owner. Paul Halpin, applicant. 15 Custom Street, Sheet B, Lot 2152, requesting special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15, Number 3, to allow an accessory in-law dwelling unit by constructing an attached 18 by 24 two-story addition with living space on the first floor and accessory dwelling unit on the second story. This is in the RA Zone, Ward 9. Is there someone here to present this application? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and you can adjust that for your comfort level.
Hello, my name is Paul Palpan, the applicant.
Your address, sir?
15 Custom Street, Nashua, New Hampshire.
Just pull the mic closer to you, or you can raise it, you can take it off of that. They
Okay.
just need to be able to get your voice on tape, so
Okay.
that we have it for the minutes.
Yes. You want me to repeat again?
No, I think we have your name and address. I just
Okay.
want to make sure when you're explaining everything that you're clear into the microphone.
Okay. Yeah, we are requesting to build a addition in the left side of the house with a two-story first floor for the extension of the living of the house, and the second floor we're planning to do a small studio with a bathroom and a small kitchen. That's the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you, just completes your application, your statement? Okay.
Yes.
Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Boucher?
Maybe I missed it, but help me out. Where is the access to the ADU? I see you're on the second floor, right?
Yes.
The access to the main house, you have an access to the main house, another access to the main house on the second floor?
Yeah, we are to the second floor of the addition, do you say?
So the ADU that you're asking for,
Oh, okay.
right? We're looking for the other access, right? And the other access is,
Yes, yes, it's gonna be in the left side of the addition. Stairs go straight to the second floor of the addition.
where's the other access? Is there another access point to that?
We are planning to do another access from the second floor of the existing house.
And, okay. Could I?
Mr. Falk?
Sure, Mr. Boucher, I think you saw the plans are showing a different front door on the front of the addition. That's only for the main house.
We're gonna keep the same main door of the existing house, and also we're gonna have a direct access of the addition for the first floor, but we will be connected with through the kitchen of the existing house.
Does that help you, Mr. Boucher?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Courier, do I see your hand?
Yes, I was wondering if Ms. Poirier could pull up the sheet that has the door and window schedule, because I kind of have the same question as, and if she could pan to the, it's not that sheet, I think it was the other sheet maybe before that. Now pan to the right, yeah, if you could pan to the right of that page. Keep going, and let me move my window here if I can. So right where your mouse is, it says no access from existing house. Right there, no access from existing house. And while I know that Mr. Boucher asked a question and we just heard an answer, I'm extremely uncomfortable with a written plan in front of us that has no access from existing house, as opposed to very clearly specifying how the door is going to be.
You mean for the second floor?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we are planning to do maybe a correction in the plan to do a door that connect the existing house with the second floor direct. Yeah, so the second floor gonna have two access, one for on the left side of the stairs, and in the right side gonna have the access to the existing house on the second floor.
Yeah, I'm just saying that for myself, I would need to have plans on file that show that door versus plans that state there's no access from the existing house, that's all. But I guess, yeah, that's I'm all set.
Mr. Falk, based on Mr. Courier's statement, is the city satisfied that there is an entrance and a connection to or from within the main house to the ADU?
When I met with the applicant, they were gonna have the main entrance to the ADU on the left side of the house, with a staircase that goes up into that unit. That's one means of ingress and egress. The other one was supposed to go on that same second floor into the main house. The door, I understood the new door that's shown on this plan is only gonna be for the first floor, the first floor unit. And that wasn't a direct door that goes upstairs. That plan there. You can see the
Madam
note
Chair.
board on the side.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, Mr.
Mr.
Falk,
Boucher.
just so we're on the same page, I think that the applicant is, stating they're gonna put the door in. As far as this case goes, if we were to approve this application, are these plans what officially gets filed with this application? Or is this something else that will happen to ensure us that that extra door is being put there? Or do we have to put a stipulation? I'm just trying to figure out how to get past this, or do we need, and Mr. Curry brings up a perfect point, right? Because I saw the same thing.
These plans are not building plans. That's a whole different set of plans that has to go to the building department. These are only plans for the zoning board. The plans can always be revised to show that second means of ingress and egress on the second floor. But these plans are not building plans. They look like them, but this is not something that the building department is going to accept.
Okay, so if the applicant is attesting that they're going to put a door in, would it be, would it be, if we were to make a motion, let's say, that specifically states, just reiterating that there needs to be a door in the ADU that connects to the main house, would that be sufficient enough to cover us?
They would, and they also filled out the affidavit that states that they.
Yeah.
that
And
they
that was the
meet
other
everything.
point I was making too.
We went over them point by point.
Okay.
That this would be, this would be
Okay.
met.
I saw that, and it categorically states, that's one of the points. Point number 8, an interior door shall be. Okay, so I think to Mr. Boucher's point, reiterating that in the motion is not harmful.
Yeah, and I think it's right that it's covered here.
Yeah.
But to Mr. Currier's point, and thanks for clarifying that these are not actual specific drawings. I mean, we look at them kind of like what's going to be there, but I do see where Mr. Currier, or anybody could look at that and say, you know, is that going to be a guaranteed thing? But thank you very much for your help.
The building department will look at this very, very carefully, everything on it, you know, the plumbing, the electrical, the structural, the insulation, everything. Access, two means of they can't approve a plan without two means of ingress and egress anyway. So it has to be there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Currier, does that help you?
Well, yeah, it helps. I mean, I guess I, think the stipulation should be tight enough to say that we're not, approving the note that says no access from existing house, because, we've gotten a black eye for this before, where we've, plans say one thing, the written plans say one thing, the applicant says something else, something, that's say agreeable to the zoning board, and then the written plans are what follows the application. So we just need to be very clear to, to countermand that no access note.
Agreed. Also, noting that he signed the document stating that there would be an interior door. We do have that as well. But that doesn't hurt going into this accessory dwelling unit criteria, doesn't hurt going into the motion. Okay. Mr. Lionel.
My questions were answered, thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Is there any further questions? Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here who would like to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Thank you. Mr. Lionel.
I'm in support of the application as long as, I don't think a stipulation for the interior access is required, but I have no objection to doing that.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher.
I'll support the application as it stands, and I think maybe as simply as a comment, like Mr. Currier stated, was not a stipulation, but as a comment that there was a plan we were presented with no access comment, but that was clarified during the discussion, that again, with the sign stipulations and going through with the building department, that there will be that second door that will be there, and we just didn't see it on the plans.
Thank you. Mr. Currier.
I'm in support of the application, and I'm putting a note on the record here, and I'll read that in a moment if somebody wants to make an application of the comment versus stipulation about the door to the main house.
Thank you. I too am in support, and I agree that some reference back to either the ADU criteria, special exception points, and that it was signed and that we have the discussion could be a part of the motion. Okay, would somebody care to make that motion?
I'll do it.
Mr. Lionel, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion on behalf of the owner, Rosario Guerrero. The applicant is Paul Palpan, address 15 Custom Street, sheet B, lot 2152. Requesting special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Number 3, to allow an accessory dwelling unit by constructing an attached 18-foot by 24-foot two-story addition with living space on the front, on the first floor, and accessory dwelling unit on the second floor. This is in the RA Zone Ward 9. The board finds this is listed in the table of uses. The board believes it will not create undue traffic congestion or unduly impair pedestrian safety. The board believes that it will not overload public water, drainage, or sewer or other municipal systems. The board had some discussion about the special regulations, in particular, the requirement that an interior door shall be provided between the primary dwelling unit and the accessory dwelling unit, which was not present, it actually was excluded on the plans that we were provided, but the applicant has promised and signed the affidavit that there would be an interior door provided. So those special regulations are fulfilled. And the board finds this will not impair integrity or be out of character with the neighborhood or detrimental to the health, morals, or welfare of residents. So make a motion to approve the special exception.
Thank you, Mr. Boucher. Do your second. Mr. Lionel, how do you vote?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
Mr. Courier votes in favor.
And myself, Mary Ellen McKay, I also vote in favor. That's a unanimous decision of the board. Congratulations, your special exception has been granted. Anyone can appeal any decision made by this board. They have 30 days with which to do so. Should you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please refer back to either Mr. Carter Falk or Ms. Kay Poirier in the planning department. And as I stated previously, this is what ADUs were set up for initially. Congratulations. Thank you for your application this evening and your presentation. And we have final case. Jordan Davis, owner, 20 Millbrook Drive, Sheet E, Lot 737, requesting the following variances. 1, from Land Use Code Section 190-17E1 for maximum driveway width, 24 feet permitted, 34.3 feet existing. Requesting an extra 27 feet wide driveway proposed on right side of property for a total width of 61.3 feet. And number 2, from Land Use Code Section 190-193A for minimum parking space depth, a minimum of 20 feet required, 13 feet proposed. Both requests to maintain an existing new paved area on right side of property. This is in the R9 zone in Ward 5. Is there someone here to present this application? If you would please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Jordan Davis, 20 Millbrook Drive.
And the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. I already have built this, which I didn't know I had to get permission, so I apologize for that. I just own a construction company, and I have like a trailer and work truck, and then I have a few roommates that we share parking. So I was just looking to add some, to expand this, and it's already built, so if approved, I would change whatever needs to be changed to bring it to code.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Courier, do you have any questions?
I guess, is there a consideration of extending them to a legal length parking depth of 20 feet? I guess that's 20 feet, and maybe it's a question for Mr. Falk. Does it have to be 20 feet from the edge of the pavement or 20 feet from the property line to what's the definition of a parking space? I guess I'm confused on that myself.
It would be 20 feet deep from the property line. A parking space is 9 by 20 in the city, so it'd have to be 20 feet from the property line.
So I guess the question for my question for the applicant is, Mr. Davis, has there been a thought or possibility of making the parking lengths that long, 20 feet from the property line?
Is property line not the right of way, I'm assuming? So it'd have to be even
Well, the
double
no.
back.
Mr. Falk?
The edge of the right-of-way is actually the beginning of the property line So it's from the property line. Okay, Kate, if you get that one that shows this. Okay, the drawing that's up on the screen, that red line is actually the property line. So everything to the left of that red line is all in the public right-of-way. So the parking space would have to start from the right side of that red line going to the right.
Okay. And all of that would have to be paved, including what's in front of the red line?
Yes, it would all have to be paved to the paved right-of-way.
Okay.
And that's a requirement from Department of Public Works as well.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Courier, did that help you?
Well, I guess I wasn't, I was just wondering if that's a possibility. I'm not saying I would necessarily, I guess, like that. I mean, there's still, the applicant is expressing a need for more parking than actually the 34-foot width driveway. Well, I guess it seems to me that you could park 6 or 9 cars in the existing driveway. It looks like a 3-car wide driveway. Is that, do I have that right?
Yeah, I can fit 6.
6. And how many spots are you looking for?
I was just looking to add 3 more.
Because is there any possibility to go further back on the left side, like where your existing asphalt is?
No.
Into the house.
Okay. Yeah, right, okay. Well, I guess that's, I don't have any other questions, but thank you for clarifying that.
Mr. Lionel?
When I drove by your house the other day, I noticed that your business truck and a trailer were parked on the grass next to the house.
Yes.
Is your intention to park those in this paved area, or?
I would be able to put them in the driveway and then put the other vehicles on that extra space.
As I saw, I think 5 vehicles in the existing paved driveway, and your truck and trailer also. That's a lot of parking for a single house.
Yeah, I have a few roommates.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions, Mr. Boucher?
So it sounds like you need 9 spots, is that what you need?
Yeah, that would make it work.
So that's
I mean,
9 spots because of the trailer counts as a spot, so
You're right.
9 spots.
And I personally have 2 vehicles, so that's already 4 out of 6.
Right. And the garage is out of use?
Yeah, I have like a bunch of junk in there.
Okay.
You can't. It's low too. You can't really fit a vehicle in there. It's kind of like a
Right.
useless garage.
And then I didn't see too much, but the existing spot that you had taken out there, to extend that back, I didn't see any, and you know, because we don't walk on property, we just drive by, we just look. I didn't see anything. Is there anything there that prevents you from making that driveway deeper?
Where's that?
Where the area you have stone in now?
Mm-hmm.
Can you go deeper, or is there something preventing that?
There's just some bushes and trees.
Yeah,
But
okay.
I can.
So there's no like boulders and
No.
ledge
I don't-
and all
not
that
that I
stuff?
know of,
Okay,
unless I run
okay.
into it.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Okay. And you had stated previously that you would make it right,
Yeah, whatever the requirements are. Yep.
okay? And, okay. No further questions? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? And I do have a letter. And is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? The letter that we have is from Mr. Daniel Hudson, the city engineer, and it's from the city of Nashua. I could read the whole letter, but I think I'm going to read the portion that they oppose the variance being granted as the driveway exists today, without the permit as a gravel driveway on the northeast right side of the property with a depth of approximately 13 feet. This area is proposed to be used as a parking area per the application, 7 feet less in depth than the required 20 feet. In addition, the majority of this unpaved driveway is located within the Millbrook Drive right-of-way. As many as 3 vehicles have been observed head-in parking in this area at the same time, with a portion of each vehicle overhanging into the roadway, which is a public nuisance and potential safety hazard. During snow removal operations, the city needs to be able to plow the roadway from edge to edge in order to maintain adequate width for vehicle travel, including emergency vehicles, as well as to leave room for snow storage for future storms. Vehicles located in the proposed driveway will interfere with plowing operations and limit the area available for snow storage. For the above reasons, the Division of Public Works opposes granting of the required variances. If the driveway depth was increased to 20 feet minimum and the driveway paved to avoid tracking of stones onto the roadway, we wouldn't object to granting of the variance for driveway width. Thank you for considering our input in your deliberations. With that being read, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Boucher.
Oh,
Mr.
Oh,
Carter.
I'm sorry, Mr. Courier.
I didn't know if the letter you read, which is kind of, I think, opposition, if maybe the applicant might have the opportunity to address it if he wants.
Oh, okay. Well, in the end, it did state that if he was willing to go the 20 feet and pave rather than gravel, they would not object.
And the applicant did say that he would do whatever was required.
And you did say you would do what was required, so I'm assuming that that means you would do what Public Works is requesting. Thank you. Thank you for clearly getting us to put that on the record, Mr. Courier. Mr. Boucher.
I'm just processing right now. So the applicant's is stating that he needs 3 more spots to achieve what he needs. So again, I'm just trying to take in all the vehicles, and and I drove by too, and I understand he owns a business, and he has the right to do what he wants to do in the house and have roommates and all that. So that there's no problem there. I don't have an issue with that. It's just, when you have several cars. I'm indifferent to it, which means that I could see if the driveway was put in, I would say, following the guidelines and was, the presentation was right, I guess I would be okay with it, knowing that he's got work vehicles and stuff like that. We didn't hear any opposition at all from any neighbors. There's a couple of houses on that street that, have very, small frontages, but this house is not necessarily small. It's not huge, but it has room. So now, in my head, I'm going, do we need 27 feet? Because you're going to put 3 cars, we can change that. And I don't want to get down to whether it's 27 feet, 24 feet, because at this point, to make it right means that we have to pull all the stone up, and we have to correctly at least connect to the roadway per city ordinance. So, what is that? I don't want to go more than what's needed. So I don't know what to say there. So right now I'm a little, like I said, indifferent. So neither positive nor negative, just indifferent to the application at this point.
Thank you. Mr. Courier?
Well, I would say one thing I'm positive on is the 34 feet, 3 inches of existing driveway, right? Because that is one of the variances that I think is not present on the property. And I think that the existing asphalt driveway is reasonable for the property. When we get to the extra 27 feet, like I think what Mr. Boucher was speaking to was, right now there's 27 feet wide because it's not very deep. And if you take 27 feet wide and plow it back, what might be almost 28 feet from the road, I mean, that's probably way more parking than is needed. And so the point I struggle with that also, because I feel like I'd rather have a plan of what's needed and how many parking spaces would be there versus saying, yeah, okay, just take that extra 27 feet and go back and we're good to go. I think it would look like a huge parking lot. So, to have 61 feet, 3 inches all going that far back is, that's a massive amount of parking. I don't think that much is needed. It would seem to me that if there was one parking space width going back, maybe a long way, the guy could back his trailer in. What I do with my trailer in my driveway, that would work for it. But I think that needs to be thought out and maybe come back to the board. But I'm not willing to move forward on just this request, especially in light of the engineering letter. In all these years, we've never got an engineering letter, speaking of a concern like this. So, I really respect the engineer, and I appreciate the engineer talking about kicking stones onto the street because, well, most people in a car, it doesn't matter, but people on wheelchairs and those electric scooters, disabled people, the stones are always a problem. But anyway, so I'm okay with the existing driveway. I'm struggling with the extra amount. That's where I'm at.
Mr. Lionel?
Like Mr. Courier, I can accept the existing driveway. I think that it's shallower than than we might see otherwise because the house is closer to the road. But I can't support 27 foot wide by about 28 to 30 feet from the road of additional paving. That's excessive and unnecessary. I'm, like Mr. Courier, I said, okay, well, what if we made it like a 12 foot, a single car wide, like 12 foot wide, and then deep enough to satisfy the city. The applicant could park his trailer and his truck on that and leave the driveway, the existing driveway, for the numerous cars from his roommates. But it still bothers me because it's sort of out of character from the neighborhood. There are some houses nearby that have larger driveways, but that's a really big ask. I think what I would like to suggest is tabling this and asking the applicant to revise the application to, can we do this? To have a narrower additional driveway. Can we do that, Mr. Phillip? We can do that.
Yes,
Or
we would
can
have to re-advertise it probably, so We need to see a plan showing the exact dimensions of the proposed new driveway.
Yeah, as I can't support the application as it's presented here.
So this would be a whole new application.
Even though it's less.
Well, it would be revised to be a lesser request, but, so maybe we don't have to advertise it. I'm not really sure until I see a plan that shows exactly what the dimensions are.
Well, it doesn't, I mean, the application says it's 27 feet wide, but it doesn't say how long it is. And it's suggesting that it's just that existing area that's gravelled out now, which the city engineer says is unacceptable.
Well, if I could chime in, I mean, the request too is really because it's only 13 feet versus 20 feet, so.
Right. And the engineer is good with that once it
No, the engineer.
goes back.
well,
No, that is what they said.
Well, yes.
It's exactly what they
Yeah,
said.
but I wouldn't support 27 feet wide going back far enough to satisfy the engineer.
Mr. Falk has a comment. Madam Chair. Madam Chair. Mr. Falk.
Did you, and we stepped on Mr. Courier's words too, so I don't want to forget that he was speaking.
The 13-foot width, you know, I believe the letter means from the edge of the right-of-way to the edge of the retaining wall.
No, it's really only 13 feet from the road at the moment.
Well, that's what I think the letter meant. From the road to the end of the retaining wall, it's 13 feet deep.
Right.
But we measure, parking spaces are not measured from the edge of the pavement, they're measured from the property line. So from that red line on there, that's where the measurement starts. To the right of that red line, that has to be 20 feet deep,
A minimum, right?
minimum, one parking space.
And the
The
applicant.
width is 9 feet per space.
So technically, if the applicant wanted to, I'm not saying we're approving it, but if the applicant wanted to pay back 40 feet, right, from the property line back, right, not a problem, because it's more than 20 feet, so he'll have, right?
If he has the room where there's not
But is it-
trees or infrastructure or water lines or
Right,
anything in the
right, so-
way, you don't know about that.
So I guess what I'm saying is it's a minimum of 20 feet. If somebody paid back a little further, that's not the issue. It's having a minimum of 20 feet. Minimum of 20 feet.
But we also have to look at open space
No, I understand, yeah.
and other issues.
Yeah.
So it's not just putting out numbers. We have to look at a plan and study it, make sure it's gonna meet the ordinance.
Mr. Courier.
Well, I guess just to summarize what I'm hearing, I think the board is comfortable with the excess of 24 feet in the 34 feet 3 inches that's existing. I think what I'm hearing is whatever, if something were to happen on the right side of the house, that would, at this point, be a completely different design. And so one thought I have is maybe if the board's comfortable, approve the 34 feet 3 inches that's existing and deny the 27 feet at the 13 feet proposed. And if the applicant wants to come back with an application or a design for something on the right-hand side, that likely is going to be significantly different than what's proposed tonight on the right-hand side.
Yeah, it seems that the issue is the depth from the road. It's,
That's one of the issues, yes.
that's the issue for the Public Works.
Right.
That's their issue. And if that was back, the 20 feet minimum, and cars were back, that's 7 foot on this side of the red line, that
No,
was,
not 7.
Is
It'd
it-
have to be like,
excuse me, just a minute.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Falk, when you had that red line up, and you went towards the road with that space between the red line and to the street, that is just, would that be like a sidewalk, the 7 foot that this, you have to come back anyway, even though it's your property, you're coming back?
Not your property.
It's, oh, for the street, the sidewalk's not your property, but you're, okay, I understand, so that's the piece you come back from. But from the red line moving backwards into the property, that's where they can go back a minimum of 20 feet, so that their vehicle, and there's no stone, it's gotta be asphalt.
Right. The 20-foot space is enough to allow a vehicle to park all in your own personal private property and not have half your car stick out into the right-of-way. Even if that was a sidewalk, that would still be sticking into the
Right.
right-of-way.
Right.
So everything starts from the red line going to the right.
Okay,
That's where the width, same thing with that, we see variances all the time for to exceed the 24-foot width. You can go wider past the front yard setback, which in this zoning district it's R9. So 20 feet past that red line to the right, the driveway can fan out more. The board sees numerous variances for that. But I can't really get into that very much because I don't know, that might be hitting the house or maybe too much open space that's being asked for. We'd have to take a look at that.
okay, because this exists and needs to be corrected.
Correct.
Okay, so I understand.
So just to summarize, if we table this motion, the applicant, what we're asking is the applicant come back with a plan, and then what would happen there would be Mr. Falk the planning department would look at that and would determine whether or not there's any other issues with any other code issues. If not, if it's less than what's here now, right, then there was really no issue with re-advertisement. But at that point, you would have the conversation with the applicant if there's something more that we have to do. Right.
Correct. Well, the two variances, one is to exceed the width. So the overall width requested is 61 feet where 24 is allowed.
Right.
He's got some that's existing. So I don't think that's going to be increased. I think that's going to be the same or less.
Right.
And as far as the depth goes, they have to be, parking spaces to be legal have to be 20 feet in depth.
Right.
So that starts from that red line going to the right. So it may or may not need to be advertised. Again, I don't know if there's an issue with open space or something else.
And I think with a better plan for the applicant, you would know that. But after you can get that plan, you could do the calculations?
Yes.
Right, okay. Okay.
Our staff can take a look at that.
Okay, so I think everybody is of the opinion that that's basically so. Mr. Boucher, did I hear that you wanted to make a motion to
Well,
table this?
First of all, before
Or
we
do
do
you
that,
wanna-
we should open up the hearing
Open-
so we can
okay.
find out when the applicant might be able to come back to us. If 2 weeks is enough, or that may be a conflict with re-advertisement if there's something else there, I don't know, so, right. So I'd like to make a motion to reopen the public hearing.
Second.
Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
If there was a second to the motion.
Yeah, there was a second.
Mr.
Mr.
Lionel.
Okay,
Lionel,
sorry, I didn't
second.
hear it, so I'm in favor of the motion.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel, how do you vote?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
And myself, Mary Ellen McKay, I also vote in favor. Mr. Davis,
Yes. Yes.
are you amenable to tabling this so that you can have a discussion with Mr. Falk on how to present this in a different way to the board, which meets the requirements of the depth and coming in from the street to meet that, but also might limit some of the width?
So you'd like it shortened? We can't just decide on a length and then a depth?
You're gonna go, you want to take it, you have to take it 20 feet back.
Right.
And
So I
the
can't
board
just do
is
that?
saying that 61 .3 feet is a huge ask. And so what we're asking is if you would consider discussing this application and re-looking at it with the city, Mr. Falk.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, so we've stated that, we have your agreement on that. Would you be able to do this in 2 weeks? Or if we may ask for 4 weeks, Mr. Falk, are we then going to put him in jeopardy? Or because we are stating it at this date and requesting it be moved, does that then cover him under that new,
HB 16,
right?
yeah.
And I think it does.
He would be fine to go
Okay,
2 weeks or 4 weeks.
okay.
If it's 2 weeks, we'd have to have a plan all done within a week.
Yeah, so that's
That might
kind of,
be-
that's why I was asking. I thought it met the criteria. Mr. Davis, would 4 weeks work for you?
So I just need to meet with him and go over a plan?
Yes,
Is that what
you're
we're
gonna have to
saying
meet with
exactly?
him and redevelop, redesign, tweak this plan.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, and so that would be November 9th? So you're willing to then appear November 9th?
Meet with him prior, come back here the 9th?
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Okay, fine. I'm going to close the public meeting, the public hearing, reopen the public meeting, and based on the conversation and the answers from the applicant, Mr. Boucher, would you want to make a motion to table?
I'll make a motion to table to a date certain, November 9th.
Correct. And I will second that. Mr. Courier, how do you vote on the tabling motion?
Could we have a little discussion on the table motion first?
Sure.
Sure.
I'd just like to clarify for the sake of clarity to the applicant that I'm not comfortable with 61-foot wide driveway at any length. And I think the balance of the board is also completely not comfortable with 61 feet of width, and that the board is asking that that be skinnied down to a different plan. Do I have that right? Because that's the way I feel. I think the applicant might, I think clarity is needed that 61 feet is, we're tabling this because 61 feet would be a deny.
And that was part of my statement, that there was not too much agreement that for the 61.3 feet, the width is just a bit too large, it's a bit too large, and tweaking and looking at the depth and the width. And he's shaking his head in the affirmative, Mr.
Okay,
Curry.
so with the understanding that 61 feet is way too large for me to approve, I affirm a table in that the applicant will come back with a much skinny down design
Thank
for
you.
consideration.
Mr. Lionel, how do you vote?
I vote in favor of tabling.
Mr. Boucher, how do you vote on the tabling motion?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
And I, Mary Ellen McKay, also vote in favor of the tabling motion. Thank you, Mr. Davis. We will see you again November 9th.
I'm sorry, who seconded that one?
I did.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to the business of the meeting, which is, we have no motions for rehearing. Does anybody see any regional impact in the brand-new agenda?
I did not.
I see no regional impact.
Mr. Boucher?
No.
There's no regional impact. Did everyone have a chance to look at the minutes?
Yes.
And were the minutes to everybody's satisfaction? Do there need to be any corrections, amendments, tweaks, edits?
I saw none.
Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes
I'll
as
second.
written.
I'll second.
And Mr. Lionel has seconded that. Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
Mr. Courier votes in favor?
Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Mr. Lionel, how do you vote?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
And myself, Mary Ellen McKay, I also vote in favor. Seeing as that's the extent of the business of the meeting,
Well, we have these bylaws thing.
oh,
What are we supposed to do with this?
are we just,
We're waiting for the full board, right?
yeah, we are waiting for the full board.
It was 9A was the addition to the
Yep.
bylaws per HB 1661. And I think the board has mentioned having a full board present before
Yep,
before
we
we
have.
vote on that. So we could just wait till the next meeting.
We'll wait.
Oh, and here's this thing about, these affidavits. I don't remember seeing these before.
That's something that happened at a meeting you were not here for. And there was some tweaking that needed to be done and requests, which is why you are now seeing the affidavit signed and in the packet.
Well, yes, but they're, okay, but yeah, these are, the ones in the packets are not the same as this, because this one for the ADU now has 10.
Yeah, they,
One's reserved.
Well, the one was reserved before.
but they added, or they were clear on,
What got added?
it was supposed to go into number 4, but they obviously,
It's 9 in our packets, but that's form's a little different.
yeah.
These are-
It had to do with
It matches what is in the
resale of these-
ordinance.
All right,
These-
never mind.
All they are just parts of the ordinance that people have to sign,
Yeah.
and we make them sign them and go over all the points with them before they come here. Because a lot of times, people are asked if they know about the special conditions, and we've gone over them a lot with folks, and they say they don't know anything about them, and we're like,
Right.
you
Yeah,
do, because you
that
signed it all.
certainly has happened. Okay.
Yeah, so that's clarification there.
Yeah, I think the affidavits are great, for just the reason Mr. Falk
Oh, yeah.
spoke to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kate,
I'm glad to see them.
this is all Kate's idea. I'm giving her all the credit, because she did it all, and,
Yay, Kate.
you know, we just want to make sure that people come to the board and are prepared for the questions and that they're, you know, thorough, complete applications, so.
Okay, so we're going to wait for the full board if we ever get
Yes.
one, to talk about the bylaws. All right.
Yes, we will wait. Seeing that, it is now 8:40. If there's no objection, I will make a motion to adjourn at 8:40.
Order.
Adjourned.
Thank you. We're good. We're out.